Shabbat Shalom. This week we all watched the inauguration on television. And one of the things that struck me about the inauguration were the prayers. The prayers were something that were spontaneous, they were relevant, they were in the here and now. They would definitely talk about the situation at hand. And it occurred to me how different that is than Jewish prayer. I guess the upside of Jewish prayer, especially Orthodox prayer, is that we do it often. And there's a sense of obligation, there's a sense of consistency. But of course, that too is the downside. Our prayer can easily become something that is a burden, that is fixed, that is just miles and miles away from the kind of prayer that we saw that was really quite inspiring at the inauguration. The Gemara in Brachot says the following. Rabbi Eliezer said, one who makes their prayer keva, fixed, their prayer is not tachanunim. It is not beseeching. It's not prayerful. What does fixed prayer mean? Rabbi Yaakov, the son of Rabbi said in the name of Rabbi Oshia, a fixed prayer is anybody who feels their prayer to be a masa, something that has to be carried, a burden. The second opinion is the rabbis. The Chachamim, they say anybody who does not pray in words of tachanunim, the words that you use. And the Shulchan Aruch says tachanunim is like a person who asks for something in pleasant language. Rabba and Rav Yosef said together, a prayer is called keva, it's called fixed, if one is not able to say something new in it. Every prayer needs something new. And in fact, in halacha, there are books of halacha that say that if one has prayed based on this Gemara, and their prayer is keva, their prayer is fixed, it's no prayer at all. So it seems that the Gemara is saying there are three factors to making a prayer not be keva, not be fixed, not be stolid, not be stuck. Number one, how we feel about the prayer. Do we see it as an obligation, as a burden? Or do we see it as an opportunity to be in conversation with God? The first way would be keva, and the second way would not. The language with which we pray, if we read words from a book, just to read them, that's keva. If we use nice language and tone, tachanunim, that is not keva. And the third one is if we're just reading from a siddur, the same thing over and over again, that is considered keva. And again, according to many, that's not called praying, but rather we have to say something new in every prayer. I personally have found that the first two are very difficult. That if we don't see it as an obligation, often we don't end up praying. And to compose it somehow in an alternate language that's more fitting can be very difficult. But what I have found productive is number three. That was the halachic statement of Rabba and Rav Yosef, that a prayer has to have something new in it. In the Amidah, we have the first three blessings that are about praising God, the last three that are about thanking God, but the middle 13 blessings on a weekday are there for us to beseech God, to ask for our needs, the Gemara says. There has to be asking, or it's not considered a prayer. And what I find is that in each of these, and this is actually how it was earlier in history, you keep with the theme, and right before the bracha, you put in your own words. It can be in Hebrew, it can be in English. It's not that difficult. You just pray from the heart. If it's a prayer about Atachon Adam Das, you give human being wisdom. So put into your own words what you need from God in terms of wisdom. If it's about healing, instead of just reading the formulaic addition that's in the healing blessing for healing for a specific person, pray to God in your own words. That's called creating something new. And I find that actually it makes the first two elements easier. It makes it feel much less like a burden. And the language that I end up using is not just the stolid language of the siddur, but that ends up being much more of a language of tachanunim. And so I would challenge us all to take a lesson from the prayers at the inauguration and to say to ourselves, how can we, while keeping within the structure of Orthodox prayer, indeed obey the Gemara, and in the halacha, that something new should always be in our prayer, and to put it into our own words. And I think you'll find that prayer in that sense is much less of a burden. Shabbat Shalom.